Hello people, this is Ryder here to review the Avataro Sentai Donbrothers DX DonBlaster. So obviously this is the main transformation device for the Donbrothers themselves, despite the fact we've only seen the leaders. Obviously in the box we have Don Momotaro, the Donblaster itself, the two gimmicks it includes, the Avataro gears, and you can see that this has a huge flap now to display the Senpaijers alongside Don Momotaro because of the gimmick. Anyways, the top from here, we have the rest of the Don brothers. So we have Oni sister, Saru brother, Inu brother, and Kiji brother. This is a QR code for the PDF for the instructions, obviously because of the fact they have to be upfront about it and not be subtle because of the fact it's a kid's toy. So here we have the Don brothers on the side, or on the right, Don Momotaro on the left. Typical information on the bottom, and the back again tells you about just the general information. But I don't know, I find this really interesting with just how it's laid out and such, because it's not even like sectioned off or anything. It's just, hey, like, this is everything you can do and such. And, shows you everything that this thing can do, tells you everything that this is compatible with, and the same QR code from the top, but also the bottom here, because I'm pretty sure, yeah, all three of these QR codes are the exact same, because it just links you to the manual. And it's kind of excessive, but I get it. It needs to be loud and in your face, just so then the kids know, oh, this is where I get the instructions from. This is 2 minutes too long. So here we have the contents out. Obviously we got the Donblaster itself, but obviously we have the gimmicks. Obviously, as I stated before, the Avataro gears. I guess we'll take a look at the Donblaster itself first, because I don't remember how you do this. Anyways, Donblaster is a pretty interesting device because it kind of contrasts itself from everything else from this series. Because the body of it's this yellow with red, and then obviously to go with the Avatar theming and gimmick and such, we got shades and such wrapped around on the top. Sadly, this gradient doesn't go through the top or go through the back. Sorry, I'm just trying to wonder why this texture is. I don't even know if this texture was always here, but we got this sticker up here, as this is, and a bunch of arrows as this is a button. Then we have the Don Brothers logo. I was going to say Ryder symbol. And then we got the gear here, because this is how you're going to utilize the gears. This is where you're going to insert the gears. Trigger button like so. Then we have the inside, or the inner sticker for the barrels, which is pretty neat overall. We got the two gosh darn it. I was gonna say barrels. That's not what I was looking for. It started with an N. But yeah, I think the size is fine for the most part. It's basically the same size as the Gearlinger, but it doesn't feel as bad in the hand. And plus, this one's for the left hand and not for the right. And like I said, for the back, doesn't have much to desire, but I mean, this is where the speaker is, but yeah, there's no speaker holes. The speaker is back here, and you're gonna put your two AAA batteries in there. like so. But yeah, I know this isn't necessary, but just to compare with the Gearlinger, just to show that they are the same size. But it's kind of a bit bigger. Like I said, I think this one kind of in this size works a lot better than the Gearlinger, because the Gearlinger definitely was kind of puny. So here we have the gimmicks of the year, the Avataro gears, a successor towards the Sentai gears. Obviously at this date, we don't know why they're gears, but oh well. So obviously we never got to cover, at this point, obviously I never got to cover the Donbrothers Sentai gear, nor the Zenkaiger 2022 version gears, just because obviously I'm getting the Zenkaiger one through the Memorial Edition. I don't want to pick up any ride on for Donbrothers. So this is our first look at the Avataro gears, which basically are kind of the same concept as the Sentai gears. It's just that now they're no longer circular. They're more kind of like jagged and such. And I really do like that they still at least carry some aspects of the Sentai gears, like the chrome and such. But obviously, instead of the center image being a like chrome rendition of the character that represents, it's now just a simple like slab of paper in front of a plastic cover. So obviously here we have Don Momotaro with the Donbrothers logo in the back with a red background and a, you know, artist, like, not artist, like an art rendition of Don Momotaro, which I do like the style, definitely. Especially with, they still carry the visor thing from the Sentai gears, which is pretty neat. Obviously, because this comes from the two Avataro gears, Avataro gear styled Sentai gears. These no longer have Kikai sides, but they still have like the identification numbers. So this one is B066. I apologize, it's a lot harder to see these ones just because the red plastic and such. But as you can see from here, the notch, it still uses the notch system, especially when we take a look at the the Zenkaiser Avataro gear. I don't know, this one's confusing because this one's technically the Zenkaiser Avataro gear, but I think it's specifically given the name of the Zenkaiger Avataro gear. But yeah, basically this is an example of basically what the rest of the Avataro gears are gonna be that aren't the Donbrothers and such. So obviously we got Zenkaiser at the center, but the background is just like a really interesting shade of like light blue and such, with like some like what's that shade? Turquoise? I'm sorry. But we do have the Zenkaiger symbol or logo in the back. But as you can see from here, this one is B000. So if we were to pull out last year's Zenkaiser Sentai gear and such, you're gonna tell that these are the exact same notches, which makes a lot of sense. And this is where you can just definitely see the, you know, what they took of the Avataro gear, or what they took from the Sentai gears and applied to the Avataro gears. Again, the only thing, obviously the biggest difference is that these don't have Kikai sides, so you can't flip them and such because there's no divot and such. But yeah, I think we spent too long on these, so let's get to the functionality. So the DonBlaster, obviously you turn it on like so from this back switch just like the Geartlinger. Sorry about that. Obviously, you get the announcement, the name. Obviously, when you move it around, it's this. It's the barrels moving, but you don't really get much out of this without using gears. You get a blasting sound, or like a punt, and then when you hold it down, you get a rapid fire, and then when you let go, you get an explosion. And then if you press this top button, nothing. Holding it down doesn't give you anything. Pressing this doesn't even give you anything. Yeah. So to transform, you simply take the gear, you slot it into this section. Make sure that the gear is fully pressed down like so. So then these parts close in, so then the gear can't come out. And so then this eject switch goes in. Such. So just press the gear in like so, and then you want to start turning this right away, so then it can start, the notches can start pressing the buttons there, and then start the transformation process. So this is the standby, and basically you have to turn this basically until the DonBlaster recognizes all the pins. And then that's when you don't do it in time. And then when you press, sometimes you're able to press this in, and then like sometimes it will reactivate things. So basically you want to be fast enough, but you also want to make sure that the DonBlaster does know what gear you're trying to put in. And as you can see here, when you actually start, the standby music actually gets louder. I find that honestly annoying, of just like, despite the fact that you finish reading the entirety of the gear, it just doesn't acknowledge it. So basically, they want you to at least do this up to 4 times, sometime, but that's when you actually have it properly read. If you do it too quickly, it's not gonna know it, so. As you can see from there. So there we have the standby for Avataro, to which we completed by pressing the trigger. So there we have the transformation of Avataro, which I really do like it overall. It's kind of the same as, well, it's kind of similar to Zenkaiger, but like there's like an actual jingle and such. And I really do like how personalized each of the jingles are. After transformation, we just still get the generic firing sound, which kind of sucks. However, when we hold it down and start turning the gear, we get additional background sounds. Other than that, it's still the same, like if I were to let go. Yeah. And I'm not going to show it, but if you were to spin this again, you're just going to do the transformation again, because this is not like the Geartlinger where doing the turning this again will do the finisher, because obviously that's where this button comes in, which we can do 2 variants of the finisher by pressing this down. By pressing it, it immediately just jumps to it. However, if we do that again and actually turn the gear, Now we're in the finishing phase, to which I think you need to at least spin it up to 4 times. Because then when it does that, that's when you know you can press the trigger. And that's basically the basics of an Avataro gear within the DonBlaster and such. So to take out a gear, there's kind of 2 methods. Basically, typically when you do pull this back, it just comes out like so. But typically, or obviously the way they kind of want you to do it is, I think they want you to hold it out like this, to the side like so, and then use this gap here to just simply, you know, take it off with your thumb, or space for your thumb. But anyways, if we were to use the Zenkaiser Avatar gear, this will lead into the second, like the core gimmick of the DonBlaster, which are the Avataro changes into the Senpaigers, to which obviously the Senpaiger team is basically from Gokaiger through Zenkaiger and such. So obviously with Zenkaiser, it'll allow Don Momotaro to transform into Zenkaiser himself. So obviously, the process is the same. Turn this to 4 times, about. So there we have another unique standby. So basically, we actually do get the transformations of the Senpaigers into this toy, which is really neat. It's really interesting what they did with the Zenkaiser though, because obviously it kind of just shows that, not just shows, but basically it does show that with the transformation of the Gearlinger, they basically took the one from the Zenkaiger 2022 version and didn't bother personalizing it, which that does kind of suck, but I get it's just a lot easier just to program all the Zenkaiger gears to be the same thing. Speaking of the same thing, it doesn't do anything new. And then if we were to do the finisher, so it'll announce the gear, but then when we do this, and you can do this too, it's not going to do anything. It's just going to do that. So that additional phrase is what you get for every other gear you use within the finisher and such, which is pretty neat. But yeah, that's basically the base package. However, obviously we can do more, because obviously if we were to use the Zenkaiser gear again, however, I'll actually show the Kikai side, because I honestly prefer using the gears as such. So obviously, because these are all the hero sides, what happens if we use a Kikai side within the DonBlaster? So it still reads it as Zenkaiser. Yeah, okay, so I will just say this now. So basically what they did is that all the Sentai Gears Kikai sides do the exact same thing as the hero side now. So basically, it does kind of suck, just because now 2 pins do these exact same thing, which really does suck. Just because there could have been a lot of potential they could have done with the Kikai sides, but I get that because the Avataro gears don't use them at all. I get why they just programmed it to be the exact same thing as the hero side, but it is kind of lacking though. I did not prepare myself, so let's get more gears. Alright, so first of all, we will just use the gear that was included with the Geartlinger Juron. And again, for consistency, we'll just use the Kikai sides for the Sentai gears. So as you can hear there, this it doesn't actually read it as Juron. It kind of reads it as just a normal Zenkaiser gear. And this is what I mean by how Zenkaiser is actually unique, because it'll actually read it as Zenkaiser. And it ends off with Himitsu no power instead of Kikai Sentai. So speaking of that, I kind of didn't want to do this, but we will use a normal Sentai gear. So we will use Kaku Ranger. So there we will get the generic Avataro change sound, which is basically done with every other Sentai that isn't Gokaiger through Zenkaiger. And then we will use the Kamen Rider Sentai gear, so we pull Geo. As you can hear, it uses the same standby as the Don Momotaro Sentai Avataro gear. So it does have its own like ending part. And then if we were to do the finisher, obviously it just announces itself. And last but not least, obviously this is a gear that's well, so I'm trying to cover gears that obviously don't have an Avatar gear counterpart for the most part, just because I don't want to spoil much. But for some reason, Stay Caesar doesn't have a gear, Avataro gear, and I know that there's no video on this one yet. That's because the gear Tojoinger is in limbo. But I'll show off the gear anyway. So I actually announced Stay Caesar. So this just follows the same scheme as Zenkaiser, which is pretty neat. Last but not least, we'll use the special gears. So here's the non-bond gear. That's kind of one of the generic phrases for the phrases, and if we were to do the finisher, I would have forgot one thing. If we were to use the superhero time gear, This one's actually cool. And then when you do the finisher, it just says special. Let me grab the other one before we move. So obviously you might be wondering, what about the Zenkaiju gear, or the Kuramiki Zenkaiju gear at this point? This thing cannot, because of how it's engineered, and just because of how this is done, it can't actually fit itself in. However, because, like, I mean, I was gonna say you can try to force it, but it's just because of how this all kind of works, because of how weird this entire system works. Because basically, you know, as you can see from here, it's actually because of this piece. It's because of this piece. You can't just force this down and then just start turning this like so, because it's not straight enough, and you're actually, I don't recommend it, honestly, but sadly, this doesn't do anything special. It's practically this one, which is disappointing. And then I'm not gonna show the entirety of this one, obviously, but obviously we gotta show off the all red gear. And this is why you want to insert the gear before this thing goes down. Because with this one, I want to show something that you can do. So if you activate it, and then press the finisher, you can actually cancel the transformation. So, which I think is pretty neat. And then, we're not going to highlight this a lot, but just to show for those curious, if we were to use the gear linger, and then use the Zenkaiser Avataro gear, I forgot how I framed this though. Obviously, because the Avataro gear is the same exact notches, it's just going to read as the Sentai gear. But if we were to use Don Momotaro's Avataro gear, as you can see, airs out. Just like the Stay Caesar gear, which I will cover these more formally whenever we can actually cover the gear Tojo gear. I don't have the dark gears, so I can't properly showcase that toy. But again, like what I said, in a typical case, this thing should not be able to be read into the Gearlinger, because sometimes the Gearlinger could misread things and accidentally read this thing as Zenkaiser. Because what they did with the Avataro gears, which I didn't mention yet, is that they actually added another. They actually made it so, if you don't recall, the Sentai gears were originally only had a singular double notch pin. If it actually wants to focus. So the Sentai gears only had the top double notch, as obviously that's what kind of like completed the process of it being read. But for Donbrothers, obviously, they extended the. I also just want to say that obviously they kept that consistent for the Avataro gears that already have pre-existing patterns and such, which is why these ones are backwards compatible. However, with the Avataro gears exclusively for the DonBlaster, they added an additional notch to existing pins and such. So as you can see from here, Don Molotaro is actually Zenkaiser's notches. It's just that they just filled the space in to, and actually programmed it to be read as something, which is why Don Molotaro has another clean looking front, despite the fact, and doesn't just read as Zenkaiser, which I think is pretty smart and such, because basically with the notch system they chose to do is really universal, because it's 2 pins, and they made it so, like, with gosh darn it, it's only 2 pins, but it's really it's they've made it so, like, it can really get expanded constantly and such. That's what I was trying to get. Well, yeah, this video is getting too long. But anyways, my thoughts overall on the DonBlaster. I think the base package itself, it's not as exciting as the Geartlinger, because obviously with the Geartlinger you at least had the playability of getting 4 sounds out of it and such. So it definitely loses stuff on there. However, their biggest selling point obviously is the fact that this thing is backwards compatible with the Sentai gears, basically making this entire gimmick line pointless of obtaining the Avataro gears and such. But obviously, yes, the backwards compatibility is nice, but that's if you actually did collect the Sentai gears, to which, yeah, most likely you have. So this is like another nice device just to use your gears in and such. But knowing that they're gonna re-release them as Avataro gears, the desire to actually collect the gears again is really up to you. I'll just say overall, this is a nice device. I don't think it's as fun as the Geartlinger, but I think both toys have the merits of fun and such. I think with obviously what's gonna come up with the toy line and such, I think this thing starts growing on you just because of what it does and such, and obviously with everything there is to it, obviously with this button. Like, as a base package, it's not as great as the Geartlinger, but when you look at it, the toy line as a whole, I think this thing starts becoming a lot more superior than the Geartlinger and such. But again, the Avataro gears, it's really up to you whether or not they're worth picking up, especially if you've already collected them through Gashpon Candy Toy, the Sentai gears and such, and if it's worth rebuying them and such. But I don't think this is the appropriate video to talk about that, because this is too long. We need to move on. Now to do this review, so this is Ryder, and I'll leave you people. Bye.